Going back to the community idea, my community supports themselves in all sorts of ways. We've had people who have struggled financially, for instance, and have received, a little bit of money for food and stuff like that. But I think as great as those things are, if those people had meaningful real world connections close to them, someone who could come over and cook a meal for them, or who could help them develop look after the kids so that they can work more, so they can support themselves, so they can feel like they're validating themselves, because people also they want to support themselves.
Right.
One of the problems with the convenience culture.
I don't know if that's true. I think half.
Okay.
I think the deplorables do that. We already kind of made the definition of like half of them are half of the population. It seems in UK and in America want to be governed. They want govern me harder, daddy. Like that's like where their heads are at. And then the other half are like, no, we're good. I'd rather work for myself. I'd rather earn my own money. I'd rather grow my own food. I'd rather do the work to live. And, so I think there's a huge difference between those two people. And that's really where the divide truly lies. It's not like Democrat or Republican or left or right. It's really lazy or not lazy.
See, I see it as well. There's like a third group in there who are people who are fully engaged in the convenience culture side of things. They've had parents, possibly like multi-generations of the same thing. They don't know like the value in doing these things. One of the things I'm continually telling people about, say, the basket weaver stuff, which I realize I haven't fully explained, but essentially is small groups of people in local areas getting together and having fun.
Sounds good,
right? Yeah. Is like fundamentally it costs you virtually nothing. It's just a time investment.
Time is money.
And then it's also, well, yeah, but these people would spend that time on social media. Like it's all about taking the time away from those things which are non-productive in your life and turning them not necessarily into productive things, but into things which you actually enjoy,
Right.
And
you choose where you're getting your dopamine. Like you get it yourself by doing something that you have done instead of having it artificially created by some software program. Really is the main difference there.
Sure. And I do believe, although it obviously varies from person to person, that the most satisfying dopamine rushes come from our relationships with other people. We come from the experiences, the building of memories.
Yeah.
Right? You won't remember that time you scrolled down your Twitter profile and you happened to dunk on this particular leftist.
Right.
But you will remember the walk you took with your father and your wife and child, right? Like these
Good point.
Sort of things. And you will remember when you had that nice summer day. And you can take physical reminders of this as well. One of the things I've started doing, for instance, is getting physical photographs made again, because otherwise they just get lost in the sea of the gallery on my phone, right?
True.
And having the physical thing means that I can, it either goes in an album or it goes on the wall. And then I'm always reminded of these sort of good times that I had, and people can't take them away from me. And if they get too kind of like I get too used to them on the wall, then I take them down and I replace them with other things that I want to remember, and then I can always go back to them. But
and if as I said earlier, if electricity was gone, would you be good? Well, you certainly would have your memories still, right? If we couldn't charge our phones or our computers to see all of the digital galleries, all those pictures would be gone, but then a physical picture, you pick and you hold it in your hand. It's good.
It's like, well, yeah. And in aid of basket weavers as well, it's about getting past the kind of transitory nature of the way we communicate at the moment. So if I'm typing out a message to you in chat, I can always hit the backspace before I hit enter.
Right.
If I'm writing you a letter, or if I'm talking to you in person, if I say something or I write something, like it's on the page or it's out my mouth, there's no way to take that back obviously, without starting the whole letter over again or having to say, no, wait, I was going to articulate that in a different way.
Yeah.
So Basket Weavers is not just about this idea of let's entertain ourselves, let's all go down the pub, and instead of moaning in an online chat room, we can moan down the pub. It's about this idea of if you are talking to people in real life, you're developing your social skills. If you're developing your social skills, then perhaps you want to go and develop your skills with those people. We have a couple of groups in the UK. So I'm going to think about London because that's where I'm based. So we have guys, we've got like one guy, he's a really committed hiker. So he's always organizing like camping trips and hiking trips. Cool. We've got one guy who, it doesn't matter what we do, he always turns up and he always has a Polaroid camera.
Nice.
Where he would take images that are personal for people to take. We've got a guy who has just joined us, who's really keen to do like more of the kind of museum visits and artsy stuff, and that side of things. And that's all really positive because it shows where people are passionate outside of this kind of ongoing culture war. Like we know where we agree on things. Yeah. We know that there are going to be differences between us and we're not all going to agree on the right solutions. But again,
how do we go ahead, finish that, and then I'll ask you the question on
highlighting the similarities between us at the end of the day. You know, like there's so much that we have in common, and if we have shared interests, then we can help you know, enjoy that in a space where you're not going to be looking over your shoulder constantly for someone who goes, that was a bit of an edgy joke, better contact your employer.
Look, how do we like bring that back? You know, how do we explain to people that it's okay that someone doesn't feel the same way you do, right? That you will never get everyone to feel the same way you do on every single thing, because it feels like there's this crowd out there that the non-deplorables, right? I have a word for them, the leftists, whatever you want to say. It feels like they won't accept anything less than full acceptance to their entire ideology. You can't disagree on any front, or you are suddenly their enemy. Where, you know, you're having these groups where you guys are coming together, and we know we don't agree on everything, but we can all enjoy a hike. We can all enjoy, you know, a physical picture of myself being in a magical place, right? I mean, there's certain things we can all agree on. How do we bring that back?
I look at it from the point of view of two perspectives, really. One is there are going to be people, I mean, like myself, like I've gone a huge political journey over the past 2 decades.
Okay.
And there are people out there who are looking for truth and don't know where to find it. And at the moment, most of them are being captured by the left when they're young. If they're lucky and they manage to actually get some real life experience and it develops them in the right way, then they will gravitate away from that because it's a very lazy way of looking at the world. But if you then you've got the other side, which is like the really committed ideologues that you talk about, who there seems to be no changing them. So the way I look at it is, you're not going to win the culture war in the annals, you know, in the internet, because the people who are pontificating the loudest on Twitter or Facebook, wherever, have already made up their mind. And the people who are watching the YouTube content are either the people who are questioning or people who already know what you're doing. So YouTube, for instance, is a really good vector for people who are trying to figure out their perspective on lots of different things, to listen to a broad range of content and figure out where they sit. But those ideologues who are going to come in and scream that you're a racist, you're a sexist, you're a bigot, whatever, you're not going to convince them there. No. But I take heart from, really, do you know Daryl Davis?
Yeah, definitely.
The guy who convinced the KKK members to
hundreds, so many of them. Amazing guy.
Great wardrobe full of stuff.
Yeah.
And you look at it, I look at it as an example of two absolute extremes where you would think that there was absolutely no way he could have made any headway with these people.
Right.
But he turned up to things. He didn't write columns from like the New York Times about how like the KKK should reform. He went out and he talked to people.
Right.
He made friends with people. He humanized himself to people. And that's what did it. And in a similar way, the more basket weavers groups that we have going, the more places in which we're active, the more collaboration events that we do, and the more people that we talk to generally. I mean, I mentioned the hike. One of the examples I give is you can be on a hike and you can just come across people who are rambling, as well. And you can strike up a conversation, and all of a sudden it's much harder, in the same way that it's much harder to say no to a salesperson in person.
Yeah.
It's much harder to say, well, actually, I think that you're an evil so-and-so and you're actually a Nazi and you're as bad as Hitler. When that person is standing in front of you, dressed quite modestly and going, I've been really thinking about this really hard and I don't know what to make of it, but this is my kind of best go at it. What do you think? I had a clash with a lefty friend of mine over like what we should do to tackle the sort of sustainability thing. So whether or not we should go to green things, because there's this big commitment over here that there will be no more fossil fuel powered cars by 2035 or something like that.
Yeah.
And we came to an impasse over sort of her going, well, what is the response then? What is your solution? Like we can basically get to the point where we say, we don't think this is going to work, what they've currently got in place, but have you got anything better? And one of the prevailing attitudes that I see all the time, particularly on the left, is they might be doing something counterproductive, but at least they're doing something. And whilst I think that's an incredibly reductive sort of way to look at things, because something like Extinction Rebellion blocking a motorway and like gluing themselves naked to trucks is doing nothing but bad optics to the movement.
Yeah, it is.
Right is saying, well, because we don't have all of this absolutely nailed down, we'll do nothing. And like we do a lot of stuff online, but then online I look at as the lowest effort possible for a lot of people. Obviously, it's a bit different for creators who are doing it sort of full time, but for people who go, right, I've watched the latest Adam Krigler vid, I've watched the latest Tim Pool sort of analysis, and we're all angry at this particular issue, right? And okay, well that's that, and maybe I've got someone in a Discord community I can also talk to. Oh, did you see this? Oh, it was so bad, and that's it. It doesn't go any further. Whereas I've had so many great conversations which have just been struck up with strangers in pubs when I've been with mates and we've been talking about something interesting, and they go, oh, like, what do you think about this? And I really do think that kind of proactive putting ourselves out there in the real world and talking to real people, especially if you've got the home field advantage of people to back you up. You don't need to be a confident speaker. You don't need to know all your arguments.
I think you do. In this kind of situation, because these people aren't just, they're not going to sit there and calmly have a logical discussion. These people are, their entire worldview are set. So when you start countering it with facts and logic, they feel like they're getting attacked, and they, without having all of your facts straight, they look for the simplest little thing that maybe you slip up, and then like, that's it, I got you, I'm right, I'm out, and they get triggered, and then it's all emotions. You need to be calm, but you have to have your facts straight. You have to know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if you have everything there. If you've got 3 of your mates behind you who are also well versed on the topic, who are going to fill in the gaps,